Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my weekly Node-RED live stream. Here for an hour or so of some Node-RED development work. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you've all had a good week. Say hi in the chat if you're watching live. You may notice different background. I have moved rooms, not houses. This is my new office. As you can see from the dismantled bed behind me, it's a work in progress. But yeah, I got the bit you can't see moved. Now I just need to sort out all of that junk at some point. But yeah, let me know. It's a bit echoey in here still, so I hope the sound is all right from your side. Let me know in the chat. Otherwise, we're just going to crack on. I've not got a huge plan for tonight. I really feel like digging into something new and writing some new code. We need to start thinking about 3.1 at some point, but to be honest, it will happen when it happens. We've got a lot going on in the next few weeks, next 3 weeks, which kind of just gets in the way of doing lots of focused Node-RED activity. Well, we have lots of focused Node-RED activity. We've got the Node-RED conference in just under 3 weeks now, so we've got all the talks selected and scheduled. We'll be updating the website this week. Keep your eyes peeled for updates on that. But yeah, just lots going on. So what are we going to be doing tonight? That's the question. I've got two things in mind. And I'm going to see, first in chat to respond may influence which one I do. So I think there are two features that I want to spend some time on. One is going to be eminently more achievable during a live stream than the other. So we've got this one I think I touched on last week. So this was adding the ability to essentially upload an image as long as it's an SVG for now, but we may explore other things. Upload an image rather than constrain you just to using an icon on the installed system, and actually inline the image data as part of the node icon property. So that's one option. The other option is a longer term, more serious bit of development work, but it is also one that I haven't really figured out where to make a start. And this is the ability to lock flows. So this is a feature to have a new property on the tab, on the flow node, that you get to lock it. And if it's locked, it can't be edited. And then a whole bunch of stuff around that. So for the individual user, it means you can lock a flow to stop yourself accidentally editing it. In other scenarios, with some other flags we would enable, someone could deploy an instance of Node-RED that other people have access to and prevent them from editing certain bits of it. They'll be able to see it still, but those users wouldn't be able to edit it, and they wouldn't be able to change the locked status. So that's kind of the two use cases we have for this locking feature. So locked flows still run. As far as the runtime pays no attention to the locked flag, except the runtime APIs for updating the flows will honor attempts to. So under certain conditions, the APIs will prevent flows from being edited by being posted to the API, because it's not much good locking them if you can just get around it by posting updates to the API directly. That's that feature, which is a decent bit of work. Or there's this allowing icons. Now, the custom icons, it was a neat idea someone mentioned in Slack, and it just caught my attention. It's not one that's been on a roadmap for ages, so it's not necessarily a critical one for us to dive into at the moment. But I'm tempted to start. If we play with the locking flows one, then it is going to be a bit of an exploration this evening of, okay, what does that mean? And start playing around that. So Clifford asks, is locking the start of user capabilities management properties? I think I sort of know what you mean. At the moment, as it says in the future work here, well, before we get to what it says in the future work, at the moment this locking is kind of what I've described. So the default scenario will be, it's a very casual bit of locking. It doesn't stop anyone. For the default installation of Node-RED, a locked flow is only locked until the user unlocks it, and then they can edit. The key point being an option to be defined in the settings file that would turn off the ability to change the locked flag. And in fact, granting certain users the ability to unlock and lock flows versus others. That's kind of where you start getting, I think, the question you're asking, Cliffo, is there you can then start having a Node-RED environment where some users have more editing ability than others, which is something it's a question that's been asked from time to time repeatedly for a long time. And the answer has always been our permissions model doesn't get that fine-grained, but this is kind of, well, I think the mental breakthrough I had was realising when someone suggested this feature, was realising it's kind of flipping around the user permission model by saying, not having to say in the permissions model, this user can edit flows A, B, and C. Instead, it's saying this user can lock flows, or this user can lock and unlock flows. I think that feels like it works better. Okay, that won't extend as far as then having some users who can edit some tabs, some users who can edit other tabs. That model wouldn't work here. But to be frank, I think the vastest majority of scenarios where this has come up would be addressed by just having that single, the two levels of hierarchy of things that users can't edit and things users can edit, and then a user who's able to unlock something, make a change, lock it again, and hit deploy. So maybe having spent that amount of time talking about it, I'm kind of inclined, let's have a little tinker with it. Let's see what might make sense. So, where do we begin? We should begin, as they say, at the beginning. Sorry, I'm just having just set up this. It was a bank holiday in the UK today, so I've not been working. So this is actually the first time I've sat at the desk, having just moved into my new office space. So I'm still just getting everything set up. And also my laptop decided to do a hard reboot overnight. So also the joys of just all the little apps I normally have running, not running, and rediscovering they're not running when I'm trying to make use of them. No fun. So let us head into the Node-RED code base. We are going to check out dev, just make sure we've got the latest code. Cool. And then we're going to create a new branch, and we're going to call it locking flows. And then we're just going to run Node-RED. Get that running in the background. So for this type of thing, clearly there are two halves. There's the runtime side, and I know I said the running of flows don't care about locked flows or not. There will be features of the API that will care about locked flows, and there's going to be some need to be some careful logic applied around when are updates allowed to be made and by who. But because that's a really interesting point that if I just reread the summary. So essentially all we're doing is adding a locked Boolean property to nodes with a type of tab, which are the tab nodes, the flows. In the editor, by default, we'll add a new option at the bottom alongside the enable and disable toggle that will be to lock and unlock the thing. When locked, the editor will prevent any modification. It can still be exported. And if exported, it keeps the locked property, but of course a user could edit the JSON, remove the locked and re-import it. So when re-importing a flow, we need to consider what that can and can't do. So that's fine. That's the work to get this right. So the runtime APIs will reject any post that attempts to modify the contents of a locked flow or subflow. Now that's the one I'm suddenly pausing to think about, because if you think about the sort of the logical sequence. Okay, I've locked for the casual user who's locking just to prevent accidental modification. You open up those flows. You then say, right, I need to edit this thing I've locked, and I'm not doing it accidentally, I'm doing it very purposefully. So I'm going to unlock it, make the change, lock it again, then hit deploy. So in that mode, the runtime APIs, here I've said they need to reject any update that attempts to modify the contents of a locked flow. But now I think of it, the workflow for that individual user, they have to be able to, we don't want to say, unlock it, hit deploy so it's unlocked, now make your changes, hit deploy because you're now allowed to update it, and then lock it and hit deploy again. That's really clunky. I think the key point around the runtime APIs will more come in, and I think it's this guy here, locking down the lockdown. When we have this mode that restricts what users are able to do, that's the point where these APIs will need to take notice of who's making the change and does that user have permission to make that change. Okay, but let's not worry about that for the moment. We're just going to make a start with hopefully by now we have a Node-RED locally. Oh, but with no curious. Why have I not got any tabs? What? Well, I know why. Because I turned off projects mode when I was just testing something out the other day. So I'm going to turn password option for locking. The problem there you have is password distribution. I mean, how do you... Yeah. We already have, for a properly secure system, we are going to expect people to using admin auth to secure the editor. So I think any security around locking has got to integrate with admin auth. Yeah. Never say never, but at the moment I don't see it being a priority to add yet another password on this thing. Okay, so here we have just the random flow I've been using recently. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to start by... I think we're just going to start by we need to introduce this new locked property and have it set on the tab nodes, and make sure we just need to get the basic life cycle of that property right, so that if it's set, it well, right now the editor doesn't know about the property, so the property, even if I was to hand edit the JSON, that property would get stripped off. So we just need to do some of the basic work to, let's just get the flag on the tab node. Let's get, so you can see down here in the footer of the edit dialog is the enabled button. Well, what if in this other corner we add a little padlock? Yeah. Yeah. So, what should we do first? I think I'm going to start with the edit dialog. Don't know why, but we need to start somewhere. So, let's go find the edit dialog for flows, which might be in workspaces. Edit workspace, show edit workspace dialog. Let's go find that. There we are. So that then bounces the call back to either red.nodes.edit subflow or red.editor.edit subflow or red.editor edit flow. That's right. So let's go find edit flow. Show edit flow dialog. Yep. Right. So here we're setting up all the tray options, resize, open tray footer. So this is the toolbar at the bottom, somewhere here. Here we are. Works. Yeah. If I do that. So here we can hit, you can see here we're adding the node input disabled, the checkbox for whether it is enabled or disabled. So what we're going to do is just copy all that. Oops. Locked. So if we're saying so workspace here is the tab node. If it doesn't have a property called locked, then we're going to give it a property called locked and default it to false, because by default, what we're going to set it up is it will only have the locked property if it's true. We won't needlessly add this property. The same way as we don't add disabled false to tabs. We only add disabled if it's set to true. So just copy and paste code, checkbox, okay. I'm going to be typing the word locked quite a lot and see how many times I typo it. Right, so this is using a toggle button we have for the enable icon. Let's just go and check. They must have lock. Yeah, and then do they have unlock? Yes. Now, do we prefer the one with the, I want to say shank. Is that the shank of the lock? We have a choice. Do we go for the icon with it swung open or the one with it slightly more subtly open? Either way. Now this is where we need to wrap our head around this. If it's enabled, that means it is unlocked, is what I think what we're saying. So that is FA unlock, and I'm going to go for unlock alt, I think. And then this one can be FA lock. Okay. So let's pull up console. Right, now if we pull up this, yay, look, we've got 2 buttons, and this one is toggleable. Yeah, now it says enabled, disabled. We can do something better. If I just need to go remember. So just as I can set custom icons for enabled, disabled, if I go check my toggle button, enabled label, disabled label. So enabled label is going to be unlocked. Disabled label locked. Okay, now there's then the question, do we want the full label or can we just go with the padlock icon? I always prefer the more minimal things, but I know it's less accessible. Yeah. Okay, let's just stick with this a minute. Now obviously these buttons are all smushed up together, that doesn't look good. What I'm tempted to do inspect tray footer left. Out of interest, if I set that to tray footer right, yeah. So tray footer left, we are going to add a tray footer right. Not 100% sure this will work. Don't know if you can have both left and right, but oh, you can. So now you have enabled in one corner and unlocked, locked in the other corner. Yeah, I think that works. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need to make sure we export and import that property. That's what we need to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to essentially just search and replace, well, not search and replace, we're going to look at how we handle the disabled flag, and essentially everywhere we handle that, we need to be handling the locked flag. So here we have, when you click the OK button, the done button of the edit dialog, here you can see us doing some logic around disabled. So I'm just going to copy and paste that block. So we get the value if it's not, essentially if the value has changed, then we record what has changed. Oh no, workspace, yeah. And then, yeah, and then that does stuff around the, modifies the visual. Yeah, and we haven't yet. We will need an equivalent bit of logic here to do with, okay, what do we actually want it to look like if it's locked? But yeah, there we are. What next? Export, that's what we want. So when it comes to exporting, as in, well, either exporting a JSON or hitting the deploy button. So right now, you know what, just to make this a bit more obvious, no, won't make it more obvious yet. Right. So if I open up this flow, it says it's unlocked. I hit locked, hit done. Notice the deploy button's now been enabled because I've made a change. If I open up flow 1, it still says locked, and I can unlock it Cool. And here's a really interesting test. If I hit Control Z, then open it, it says locked again. So we've managed to, the undo history is almost working. There is, there's some side effects here, which the undo history is going to need to know to undo, but that's, that's all good. Right, let's do the, okay, so now we have, so it's locked, and that's remembered, great. I hit deploy, I reload, I add the flow, and it's now unlocked. So we're successfully setting and toggling the locked flag on the tab, but when we hit deploy, the JSON we're generating doesn't know anything about it, so it gets left behind and forgotten. So we now want to go to nodes.js. In here there is convert workspace. So convert workspace, given a workspace or a tab object, this is what generates the JSON. But interesting, I don't see the disabled flag. I was expecting to see some stuff around disabled in this. If I export this flow, look at its JSON, format it. Okay, so look, we do add the disabled false flag. I didn't think we did that. Yeah, okay. My worry there is then, yeah, I kind of only want to set it if it needs setting, which is fine. We can do this here. So here's how we convert a tab node. So here's the node, the object we're building up. We copy over the ID, the type. We then iterate over the defaults array of its properties, which is the list of properties that should be exported, and we just copy them over. Dead simple. But that means somewhere for a works, we have a tab definition being registered somewhere. And I can never remember where I've done that. So I'm just gonna, I've just gone past it. I just saw it. And if my fingers knew go to the previous match, I would do that. Here. No, I'm wrong. That's not it at all. Okay, I was completely wrong. It's none of them. Let's look in workspaces.js. Do we do it in here? Lots of actions. No. Yeah, so I'd expect it to be in nodes.js. So here you can see, this is what I'm looking for. So this is a call to register type. So this is what we do when we load nodes into the palette. And here you can see we're doing register type for a subflow that's been created. And if you're familiar with what nodes look, the node HTML looks like, you will recognize these are all those properties. And yeah, that's how subflows get added, just like they are normal nodes. But here's what we can look for. If I search for register type, and we're going to search for register type in the editor source code. Curiously, we only find the one. Okay. Oh, one result found in one. Why? Register. Yeah, so this is the actual definition of register type. Register. No. Okay, that's slightly weird. but here we go. But I've stumbled over it. So this is the internal registry. This is what, when you register nodes in the editor, this is where their information gets stored. And you can see here, rather than call an API, we just stick it in the registry just has hard-coded in a definition for tab. And here you can see the properties it has. So what we're going to, we've got two choices. We could just add locked here and call it a night. Because by adding locked there, okay, so now when I hit export of this tab, look at its formatted JSON. I speak too soon. Yeah, okay. Why aren't we seeing maybe if we edit it? Yes, there it is. There it is. So locked is now set to false. And if I lock it, look at its JSON, locked is now true. Okay. Well, that's neat, but like I said, I kind of don't want it included. Don't want it included if it's the default value. Yeah. So let's go find convert workspace again. This is, yeah. If the, and we've got an opportunity here now to tidy up the disabled flag as well. But yeah, slightly loath to do that. Yeah, if d equals locked, so we're looking at the locked property, and at d equals true. No, we'll do it this way. So if the node we're exporting, if it's locked property, I'm going to make this more explicit. So if it doesn't, so that test will work if locked is undefined or it's explicitly set to false. Then we're going to skip adding it. Yeah, does that follow? Continue just means loop background, do the next loop of the for loop without doing the rest. So here we've got flow 1, which is currently unlocked. We're going to lock it, hit export, JSON formatted, and there's locked is true. Then we're going to go and unlock it and export again. Now the JSON says it doesn't say anything. It's been excluded, and that's what we want. So just to satisfy ourselves, we've got the round trip working. We're going to lock that flow, hit deploy, reload, edit that, and look, it still says locked. And then flow 2 is unlocked. Cool. Well, there we are. We've got the basic, very simple round tripping of that locked flag. That was the easy part. Now we've got some choices to make. Namely, just how in the heck do we stop someone editing a locked flow? And what appearance, if any, do we want it to have? Because I'm gonna, well, and also we want to have a locked flag on subflows as well, but in some ways that will come later. Now, the reason I opened up this subflow was to, in anticipation of old Bobby Table's suggestion. So, suggestion to add a locked icon, which, to be honest, it seems the most obvious approach. Now, if I disable a flow, notice we already put an icon there. So we have the wherewithal to do icons. Subflows make it a little tricky because subflows can't be disabled because this is the template you're editing, so it semantically doesn't make sense to disable it. Which does mean we've skirted the issue of the fact we have an icon to indicate this is a subflow and what's going on, how does that sit with this icon as well? I would say there's some weird padding going on. I say weird, that just visually, look how the subflow icon sits nicely up in this corner. Just notice how there's a bit too much padding, to my taste, before that icon. And that's going to almost entirely be... that's interesting. Yeah, look, we have got the wherewithal to show a disabled icon on subflows, but as you can see, no consideration has been made in terms of how that sits with the icon. So we're going to have to address that with the locked icon, but not now. Not going to worry too much about subflows at the moment. Okay, so we have disabled icons on our tabs. We need to consider what happens if it's both locked and disabled. So here, do we start stacking up these icons? I'm still struggling with the user experience of hiding flows. It still just feels too easy to accidentally do it, and I've said that before on this stream, and I'm going to keep saying it every time I'm doing stuff where the mouse is hovering up by these icons. It's just not quite, it doesn't quite work for me yet. Okay, disabled icon on the tab. Let's just have a look at that. So if we look at the tabs, these are the common tab component we have. I can't remember. No, so we don't. I'm just trying to find where. Here we are. So this is in the on add of the workspace tab bar. So whenever a tab gets added to this workspace tab bar, you can see here we actually prepend, so we stick our span in before the label. Oh, before the label. So why not at this point, if that's good enough for, if that's good enough, then why not? We're going to call this ReadyY workspace disabled icon, but now it's the locked icon, and this is going to be a lock. And then if tab.locked, let's see, what does that look like? So I think flow 1 is still locked. Yeah. Oh no, look. They're all locked. Why are they all locked? So there must be some logic. Yes. Okay. So the reason for the existence of this class is to deal with exactly this. So just going to copy all that, create a copy of it. And then now we're dealing with the locked icon. It's no longer UI workspace disable. Well, locked. Right. Now, I'm not going to care about that. I'm not going to care about that for now. So right now, we're using CSS to control whether the icon is shown or not. Cool. So flow 1 is locked. Now if I lock flow 2, nothing changes. So that's where, that bit of commented out code we had here. We're going to bring that back in. But now, so we can now toggle the locked class. Yeah, all of this is just identical. Ooh, except that. Let me just stare at that. What's that doing? Okay, I'm going to leave that commented out for now. That's doing similar job. It's toggling the CSS class, but we haven't got anywhere to use that yet. Okay, so flow 2, if I come in, I lock it, hit done, it's now got the padlock icon. And this one, if I hit unlocked, it loses the padlock icon. Awesome. Okay. Now I'm sure there's going to be other visual aspects to prompt its hint that it's locked, but I think this is good enough for the moment. The other place where we do stuff is the sidebar here. So for the enable and disable, it shows, you can see it shows the disabled icon if it's disabled, otherwise it doesn't show the icon. Then you can just come and re-enable it. And then that toggles whether it's shown or hidden. This one jumps you to it. Now the question is, do we want a lock toggle on here as well? And if so, where does it go? So, because it kind of feels like the lock is does the lock go all the way over to the right hand side? I think it does. Yeah, let's add that in. Like I said, this stream, it is just about exploring this space. Yeah, add controls. Here we are. So we're in the tab info outliner, so that's the code for this component. Add controls is what adds these buttons to each row in the table, in the tree I should say, and you can see based on what the thing is, varies the logic as to what gets shown. Now, so here we toggle, so if it's a tab, that's where we do the toggle visibility. Then if it's not a subflow, that's where we do the toggle button for enable disable. Else add space, yeah, that's okay. And then we're going to say if, and again, I'm not going to deal with subflows yet. We're going to add another case for a tab, and as I've done here, if it's not a tab, I'm going to add a spacer to keep all the icons aligned. I think that's the right thing to do. We'll see how that looks. We might get rid of that else, but let's just come in and add absolutely rudimentary a button with an event handler. This is the I don't even need to assign it. This is red UI info outline item control, not disable, it's control lock. And then its two cases are what was it? Unlock, alt, and lock. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. So there you can see we've got the buttons, and they only exist on the flow entries, which is where we want it. But you can see the icons are always visible, and you can see it's showing both icons. So we need to go and add some CSS to fix that up. So let's go find where. Curious. No results. Where were we? So is this curious? Okay. How is it dealing with this today? I was expecting to find some nice CSS. Oh no, we don't want control lock. Did I search for the wrong one? Did I search for control? No, I searched for control disable. Curious. Okay. Somewhere there must be some CSS dealing with toggling which one of these guys gets shown. And here we go. This is, I think, where are we? Yes, okay, outline controls. Yeah, this is what we want. So we're just going to copy this. Fix the indent. So we want it to, what do we want it to do? I'm trying to, basically all the CSS classes are sort of toggling the visibility under different states. I'm just trying to rationalize. So you can see here, for the disabled state, we must be toggling. Let's just go back. Yeah. So you can see here we are toggling this class, and just wherever we do this for. Oh man, okay. Just pause from it. I don't think we want that, because the disabled one sort of nests. That if I disable this flow, notice how all the ones below it in the sub list also get shown as, get a style applied. That's what that's doing. I don't think we're going to do that for locked flows. So we're just going to toggle on the element itself. then so this is on flow add. So when a new flow is added, on flow change. So whenever it gets edited, so we need to go toggle the class. Where else? Who are we in? On node change. No, so node change, because nodes can be disabled, but we only care about locking and unlocking flows. So I think the two we just did, on flow change and on flow add, are the right ones. So we will now be toggling this class red UI info outline item locked. So now if we go back to the CSS, here we can add this class saying if we're in a locked item, then we want FA, if it's locked, then FA lock should be shown, and FA unlock alt should not be shown. I'm just trying to work out so if we're not hovering, if we're not hovering, then we want FA unlock alt not to show, but we do want FA lock to show if it's been set. And then this is the one, let's see how this looks. Cool, so look, it's working. Look how flow 1 has got the padlock icon, none of the others have. As I hover over, notice they show the icon, and then I can click it. Oh, okay, I've written no code to deal with clicking it to do anything. If I come up here and disable flow 2, lock flow 2, it got the padlock. And if I come up here and unlock it, hit done, the padlock goes. Cool. That's working so far. So now we just need to add some logic. What happens when you click that button? So here is the event handler for that button. And I'm going to lock toggle button. Doing that because, again, to be completionist about it, we need to we need to add tooltips. Now this is going to say it is either n dot, if it says n dot locked, then the message, which doesn't exist in the catalog yet but will, but we're gonna puppy tables, that caused me to pause looking at it as well. Other icons the wrong way around, but we'll have a look at that together in a sec. I'm also aware of the time. I'm not overrunning tonight. I'm giving a presentation for the first time in a long time tomorrow, and kind of need to finish writing it. So anyway, adding a tooltip. If we're locked, the tooltip is what we want it to do. So it's the verb rather than the noun. No, the verb rather than the adjective. Anyway, so if it's locked, we want it to say unlock. Otherwise, we'll get it to say lock. Are the hover icons the wrong way around? I always get this with toggles. should they show their current state or the desired state if you were to click on it? So at the moment, the icons all show the current state. So it's the eye because it's shown. It's now the eye with the slash because it's hidden. Yeah. So that's the way round it is. These buttons show the current state, and you click it to change its state. But yeah, I know there are a few places where we haven't always quite got that right. Should the label say the current state, or should the label say what you want it to do? Like, the fact it says enabled is because it is enabled. It's not an invitation for you to enable it, if that makes sense. Anyway, let's crack on because I want to get this wrapped up. What are we going to do? We are going to lock or unlock. Yeah, we're just going to do it. So again, following the pattern of behavior of disabled, it suggests we should have a lock and an unlock function on red dot workspaces, which is fine. We can add them. Must be so I'm in red dot workspaces here. There we go. Enable disable. We'll add lock workspace unlock workspace. Let's go see what enable workspace does. And this is, of course, we will get to the point where we'll add actions for this. So enable, okay. We are going to, this might be the wrong way to do it, copy and paste all that code. We're going to lock workspace, unlock workspace, set. Right, so if we say lock, we're going to pass in a true. If we say unlock, we're going to pass in a false. So locked. Yeah, so now I think I'm pretty much, as I did before, because we're just shamelessly copying the logic around disabled and it's the same stuff, we can no, I don't think we need to do any of that, but I'm going to leave it commented in because yeah, because so because we live and breathe actions, I'm going to so now we've got actions to call those functions. Okay, so it's currently locked. Just bring the console up just in case. If I click this button, padlock icon has gone. And if I click this one, the padlock icon has appeared. Awesome. And if on this one I do lock flow, it gains the padlock. If I do unlock flow, it loses the padlock. Let's lock that one, hit deploy. So flows 2 and 3 should be locked. And if I reload, 2 and 3 are locked, 1 isn't. Cool. So we're, yeah, ooh. That was an interesting one. Let's just tidy that up. So this flow is currently unlocked. And if I call the unlock flow, notice the deploy button has been enabled even though there was nothing to do. And we never like a needless bit of work going on. So it's this line here. So what's going on here is it's saying, well, you've asked me to set the lock state to a particular value. We're doing a strict comparison. What's the current value? Now, if you recall, we spent time making sure that workspace.locked isn't defined. Rather than have it set to false, we were defaulting it to we just default it. So in fact, rather than fix it here, what I'm going to do is when we do import nodes, import, unknown types, import. This always makes me chuckle whenever I see this line. To do remove workspace in next. So in the very original, when we first added tabs, I called them workspaces, which is, as you can see in all the code we've been looking at tonight, we talk about workspaces. But then I realised, let's just call them tabs in the flow definition. So there's this one line that says, well, maybe in a future release we can just remove this check for something called workspace. Well, we should probably do that. I think it's just pure chance no one has published a node type of workspace, because that would really screw up. Anyway, I'm just looking through wherever it is, new workspaces. In fact, the recovery workspace. No. That's not the right place to do it. New workspaces. There you go. red.workspaces.add. So if we've red.workspaces.add here. So this is where we actually add the workspace. Well, Mr. Walicki, if you do that, you've got no one to blame but yourself. If imported as a workspace, do you rename it to tab? To be honest, like I said, that code has been there 8 years, maybe. There are no flows in existence that have workspace in them. I was about to say I would bet something, and then Dave CJ might be able to prove me wrong. I'm sure he has a flow file on a laptop somewhere that dates that far back. But anyway, so yeah, I couldn't tell you, Cliffo, what we did if you imported a workspace today. Right, 9:05. I want to finish. What am I doing? I need to ensure that workspace has a locked property. So if not, has own property locked, then we're going to set it one. And then here we're going to set one. Cool. So now that just means, I think that means we don't have to deal with it being undefined anywhere. It will always be defined. And it means if I try unlocking this flow, yeah, nothing's happened. The deploy button hasn't been enabled because we've defaulted to false. We want to set it to false. It's happy. False is the same as false. Nothing to do. Cool. Okay, well that's it for tonight. That's actually, in terms of the first pass of some basic UI around locking flows, that was actually quite productive. And as I alluded to earlier, the real hard work then is how we actually stop you from editing the flow, and all the work we've put into making it nice and easy to edit stuff. How easily can we just turn off? You're quite right, Clivo. No worms were harmed. The can is firmly still closed, but we've reached for the opener, and next Monday I suspect we are going to get knee deep in worms. Anyway, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Not only are you going to see the progress of this feature, you're also going to see the progress of this office. My wife did point out she only just allowed me to stream tonight with the dismantled bed in the background, but she said you can't possibly do a work presentation tomorrow with a bed dismantled in the background. So I think tomorrow morning I'm going to be hauling all that for clearing my backdrop. There we are. Don't forget YouTube, Old Bobby Tables. I never forget. I just don't get round to it. It's not a case of forgetting. It's the backlog has built up so far now. I just I need to build up the will to spend an hour. Well, it shouldn't be an hour. It shouldn't be that long. It's just a bunch of busy work, but I will get it done. Anyway, I am going to say good night. Have a good week all. Catch you next week. Remember, No Dread Con in, just under 3 weeks. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Otherwise, take it easy, and I will see you next time. Night all.